Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Monday Namaste celebration. The moment when we choose and decide to reveal the light, the Holy Child, the Christ that is moving within us right now and always. This week, we're going to be focusing on that birth. We're going to be looking at what it means to feel that life moving within us, desiring but to be released and be born into the world. So I'm excited about that. We had a great session yesterday. We're just going to continue that again today. And I thought maybe at the very beginning I would share a song that I wrote for a new upcoming musical. As most of you know, I shared the St. Francis musical, Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, when I was on tour in January and February. On our way to New York, my friend Bill Free and I, we traveled across the country penniless with no money, no credit cards, nothing, to get to New York to do that show. It was an amazing experience. We are going to be having a big release of the documentary that was done of that whole 2-month tour. It's a beautiful documentary. I'm looking forward to showing that to all of you. And even as we speak, I'm uploading right now a video of me doing that whole musical in Assisi. So those of you who were not able to see it on the tour will be able to see the performance that I did when I was in Assisi. Anyway, when I was on the tour in January and February, I had nothing better to do, so I wrote a whole nother musical. And that musical, which I was intending to be on tour with in November and December of this year, is the story of the first nativity scene that was started by St. Francis. Francis was the first one to ever do a live nativity scene, and it's a beautiful story. And I wrote a whole musical around that, which I will share online, so you guys are going to get to have the chance to see that as well. But this morning, as I was thinking or wondering what song I might be able to sing, should I write one? Or I thought, well, maybe the first song from that musical would be a good way to begin, because it's all about giving birth to the Christ, which is what we are all doing. That's what's happening to all of us. That's what you feel moving within you. So I'm going to go ahead and open up with that song. This is the first song from the new musical, The First Nativity. Oh, sorry, wrong chord. There we go. The birth of Christ among us, a great light shining through all these shadows, shining out so bright. You come to us from dirt and dust, in a manger so fair and warm. This child received by those who believe, true God in human form, true God in human form. Holy, holy, Holy One, I am yours. Holy, beloved One, your saving power is sure. Christ is born within us, a great light healing us from age to age, healing us in your sight. You come to us from dirt and dust, in a manger so fair and warm. This child received by those who believe, true God in human form, true God in human form. Holy, holy, Holy One, I am yours. Holy, beloved One, your saving power is sure. The birth of Christ among us, within us, a great light, shining now so bright. The birth of Christ within us a great light, shining now so bright. That's really the whole lesson right there. The birth of Christ within us right now, shining so bright, revealing itself through and as each one of us, redeeming a world that was never threatened, that was always whole, that was always perfect. We just choose to see it from an angle of imperfection, of incompleteness, uncompleteness. But now we choose resolutely to change the way we see everything. And in doing so, the whole world and everything in it appears anew, and the Christ is born. We all feel that moving within us, longing to be released. We have come full term. And as we said yesterday, any mother knows that when the child has come full term, there is no holding back. You can sit and say, well, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I changed my mind, but there is no changing your mind when the child has come full term. It is about to be born. And as Christina so beautifully said yesterday, all we can really do is go into the center of that pain and breathe into it. Yesterday, Joy talked about how she resisted that when she was in her birth experience. She didn't want to do it. She held back and she just couldn't relax into it. And it was a very, very difficult birth. And Christina talked about how her son was born, I think she said, within 4 hours of labor. And that's amazing because she was able to surrender and completely move into it. I also loved what Judy said when she said that in her experience as a maternity nurse, how if you were in fear, it would actually stop the labor. And isn't that what's happening today with all of us? The fear that we sense, both individually and collectively, actually slows down or even stops the labor that you are ready for, that we are ready for together, this Christ to be born through and as each one of us. And that's why it's so important for us to release that fear, to relax into this. And that's probably the biggest reason we come together here every day, so that we can encourage one another to relax, to surrender, to allow. Because as we do that, as we allow that light just to relax, to move, we find ourselves enveloped by a light we can never understand with our minds, but which has always understood us. That's the key. So in that light, I want to share a short lesson today that I think brings this into greater focus. So here we go. I would like to tell you that you were never alone in this birth. You're not alone in this birth, but it would not be true. You alone must make the decision, and you alone must endure the pain of releasing that which has never been yours. Let me read that one more time. I would love to tell you that you are never alone in this birth, but it would not be true. You alone must make the decision, and you alone must endure the pain of releasing that which has never been yours. That which has never been yours. I love that. It goes on to say, imagine a woman in the midst of childbirth asking another person, the father, for example, to step in and take over the labor for an hour or so that she can get some rest. I'm sure your women are thinking, oh, wouldn't that have been nice if I could have done that? What if she grew so tired that she asked the father to finish the job, to push the baby through into this world? No one can help you birth the light that is moving through you this very instant. You may find a teacher or a handful of people who play an important role, who support you along the way, but you must make and take the final step alone. You alone must decide. There is nothing in this world that I want but to remember who I am. Okay, let's talk about that for a moment. That may seem to almost contradict some of the other things that we've said before. Well, we've said, you're never alone. There's only one of you here. But here's the thing. You have constructed a world where you have convinced yourself that you are alone. Therefore, you alone, for you, must make this choice. You need to choose again to see what is real, what is whole, what is complete, and in doing so, to allow this birth to take place. But in order to do that, you have to dive into the pain, as Christina was saying yesterday. You have to dive into the center and breathe that in, because if you don't, you're avoiding it. You're trying to just spiritual your way around it. And as we know, trying to spiritual your way around anything doesn't work. You have to go into the center of it, breathe into the center of it. The pain of this world of separation. You can't just push it away and say it's not real. I wish it were that easy. No, you have to dive into it. You have to fully embrace it. And in doing so, dissolve it. But because you are the one, or I say to me, I am the one that is both holding back and allowing this birth to take place. I am the one that has to step in. I am the one that has to dive into this pain so that I can realize, and here it is, that I am the one. I am the one. It's only by diving into that which has never been true and feeling that sense of separation that I seem to have allowed, but which has never claimed me, to feel that deeply, just as a woman giving birth. And only then can the labor just continue and flow naturally and easily. As we heard yesterday, fear stops the birth. Fear slows down the labor. We have come to a point now where we don't want to slow down anything. We want to allow everything. We want to dive into this and welcome it, even though it may seem just for a moment to be painful. The only reason it seems painful is because you have claimed pain as your birthright. Oh man, did you hear that? You have claimed pain as your limited, self-identified birthright. But you can choose again. Pain is not your true birthright. Grace and holiness and love are your only true birthright, but you have claimed what seems to be opposite. And so you need to choose again. And in choosing again, you come out of that pain body into the light, and all of that dissolves. So this is a very I guess, metaphysical lesson. But I think that we've all come far enough together to be able to see and to feel the impact of this. That on one hand, we have to dive into this pain. We can't spiritual our way around it. But in diving into it fully, we enter into the birth experience that is no longer blocked, and we realize that there is nothing that can interrupt the glory and the grace of heaven. The glory and the grace of heaven. But you have to dive into it first to get to that point. All right, that's my share. I'm going to turn it over to Vicki and see what she has to say about that. Go right ahead, Vic.
Okay, Jimmy, I'm right here. You know, I was realizing that I've seen just puppies born. I had one dog and we had 6 litters. And of all 6 litters, every birth was by grace. She never had a whimper, no pain. And I've seen in movies and things other births, and they don't seem to be in pain. It seems people are the only people that have a lot of pain. And however the time and space got constructed, the animals seem to be in that fluid flow of grace. And birth comes kind of effortlessly. They just lie down and there it goes. And then I was realizing, well, what we think of as a birth of Christ is this light coming through. Well, what is it coming through? Except we are finally choosing not to be attached to all the stuff, all the identity things we hold on to, possession things we hold on to, where our safety comes from. So the birth is really, really just choosing not to make idols out of our bodies, out of the world of form, out of our attachments to things, because the only time there's pain is when we think there's sacrifice and we're letting go of something. And when I see it that way, then the birth is just the freedom to be. I live not I, but Christ lives in me. That here in time, we are ready now to admit that I don't live that little identity of a body, but truly the Christ lives in me. And when I bump into something that causes me pain, it's nothing but an idol that I made that I'm not going to support anymore. That's really all that's happening. Or all my external supports are falling away. And I'm saying very practically, my sister and her husband are downstairs at this moment packing up our house. So I'm looking at, yeah.
Is it Harvey?
Not Harvey, it's Debbie and her husband, Chris.
Okay.
And they're literally downstairs.
You know I love Harvey.
Yes, yes. But, and I'm thinking, oh, because I was thinking again of Christina's image of the condor and thinking, oh, only when, if the condor can fly 100 miles and never flap its wings, it's that same current of grace that's available for us. Yes. So this morning I said, uh-oh, I'm flapping my wings. I can feel that flap. I'm not going to make it 100 miles today. But I thought, okay, grace is my salvation. I'll just sit here and feel the flap, feel a little bit shaken. And I did. It's like dive into the pain of every idol falling. You know, whether it's cups in the cupboard. It's like the silliest things we're attached to. But they represent to us the external world that we think of as our home, as our safety. So when we have to flap, it's okay. We can still get back into that current of grace and then can glide the rest of the way, because grace will continue to still be there. And even if we don't make the old formation we're in, we'll find another formation to enter into. But grace is always available. And what you said yesterday, we have to live in the place that says, I am ready. I'm ready to choose only the light and only the love of my being as my guideposts of who and where I find myself, where I am. And that is very practical. And it is easy to recognize, oh, I see I'm holding on to some attachment, and my freedom lies in attaching to love. That's where my freedom is. My freedom is attaching to love, attaching to grace, and letting everything else be. And like Joel Goldsmith says, be a beholder. and I'm beholding what seems to have been the constructed world around me shift and change as the transformative moments of our life are literally upon us to free us from the constraints that we built in to protect this false sense of being a body. It's really all that's happening. We still will exist for now through these bodies, but we can exist by grace, and we can glide in that sea, in that current of grace that takes us from one moment to the next, because the field of love has us. It has us, and as long as we resist not evil, resist not our attachments, but open our hand gently and let everything go and look upon the love in ourselves, we will find ourselves arriving where we never left, in the light of our own being, giving of who and what we are, is the love of what we are, in who knows what ways that we know in surprising ways. We will just be the givers of this love and this identity of Christ, of this holy oneness that could no longer be avoided. No matter how frightened we are, you can only stop labor so long, not forever. And might as well stay in celebration and welcome. And if we have to flap our wings now and then, flap away. It won't change anything. And this is where we are, not studying about it, living into it. Thanks, Jimmy.
Oh, Vicki, that was great. I love that Christina's image from yesterday keeps coming back, of the condor and the grace that holds us up and lifts us so that we can just surrender and just flow with that divine current. But also to be aware of when, as you were this morning, when you're flapping your wings, to make that okay, to feel that. Okay, I've chosen to be flapping my wings right now. In other words, I've chosen to get out of that current. I've chosen that. And I could berate myself as the ego wants, doggone it, you keep doing that. Why don't you, next thing you know, we're way out of the current. But what you did and what you suggested is just to feel it. That's okay. And then choose again. Then we lift right back up into that current. And there we are, soaring once again without needing to flap our wings, with no effort at all, just allowing grace to pull us all the way home. So thank you, Vicki. That was beautiful. Christina, everyone's just loving your analogies. Do you want to share anything about that or anything else today?
Good morning. Yes, you touched on so many points. But since we're on the condor at the moment, yesterday, a lovely gentleman, Jeffrey, made a post or a comment on one of my posts. And he said, condor consciousness. And when I saw it, it gave me the opportunity to just go into that for a moment. And it's true in the sense that as the condor is in flight, I'm pretty certain it's not thinking about who it's going to mate with or what's going to happen when it gets to where it's going, or, if I fall out of the current, am I going to die? Right? There's no thought. There's just presence. And all through my life, I've spent a lot of time in nature growing up in the woods, and that was my sanctuary from, the insanity of humans and life. And what always has caught me is the presence of animals, whether it's a bird or it's a rabbit or it's a lizard or whatever it is. When they're in your presence and you just watch them, there's only presence. There's no thought. There just is awareness. And even when I was a child, I didn't really know why that was so powerful and profound and touching to me and drew me to want to watch and be with it. Even the breath, watching the lizard breathe, the skin expand as the eyes are just there, present. It is true with us when we come to recognize I of my own self am nothing. I can then consciously turn my attention away from the mind stream. This is very important, especially when we have painful things come to us. You know, I remember moments where something was going on with my son. You know, it's the things in the world can affect us, but the things with the ones we love have the potential to really take us into that fear. And I would remind myself, I am my own self and nothing. I don't have the capacity to see the truth in this of my own self. So I turn my attention away from my concepts, my fears, my thoughts, my beliefs, and I just rest in the presence. And that's what you were sharing, Jimmy, this morning. And when we go into the center of the pain, we're just simply being present with what is. If pain is arising, I am here. Even over the past, these past few weeks have been so intense on a collective human consciousness level. You know, I've felt pain arise that really didn't have anything to do with anything in my life per se. And I know it's just the collective at the moment that is suffering so profoundly. But as I am aware of whatever sensation is there, I'm just giving my attention to it as it's there. And as I give my attention to it, if it is pain and I'm in the center of it and I'm breathing in presence with it, it dissolves. Then it's no longer, it doesn't continue to keep coming back. It doesn't continue to keep trying to call my attention from my thoughts. It just disappears. And then I'm in the next moment. The other thing I just wanted to speak to was the alone. This is such a powerful lesson, I believe, for all of us. And there's so many different layers to this. But I came from a community where I was just very much loved and adored and held up. And then at some point, when it was time for me to move out of that community, I moved into a much larger situation where nobody knew me. And the power in that was so incredible because it helped me to see how there was a sense of my own well-being that was dependent upon how others saw me, how others related to me, how others were in relation to me, period. And when I moved somewhere where I was not known and I was nothing, there was this sense of aloneness. I don't have my community anymore. And this is something that I find with everyone that I work with at some point. The deeper we go into our own silence, the less desire we have to be engaged in the world. And so we do become, for a period of time, more and more and more and more alone. And I think probably almost every day I have somebody say to me how alone they're feeling, that that's where they're caught. You know, they wish they had a partner, or they wish that right now, you know, we're isolated. People feel like they can't visit their families. And that, what I always share, what always comes through is it is in my aloneness where all the power lies. You know, I've done healing work for decades now, and it's in my aloneness that the healing is able to come through for the people that I work with. If I didn't spend my time in silence and alone, the healing would not happen when I come together with others. If I didn't spend my time alone and bathe in that absolute aloneness where no other person can enter, then I wouldn't be, the power would not come through, the presence would not come through in the words that I share. It's not Christina that shares, it's the power of the presence that comes through that has the effect, that has the light bulbs go off in us, right? It's words are empty. And so that aloneness I have found to be literally one of the most precious gifts of my life. I don't have any desire to be distracted from that aloneness. After a period of time, it's like going through a tunnel. That aloneness turns into our allness. That aloneness fulfills every single aspect of our lives. That aloneness brings the fulfillment that nothing in this outer world can bring. So the message today is powerful, and it's in that alone tunnel or that alone cocoon that we find our allness, that we find God. We cannot know God, spirit, Buddha nature, consciousness without entering alone. There's no other way. So as long as we resist bathing in that silence, the longer we hold ourselves apart from our fulfillment. So today, may we all have the courage and the joy and the inspiration to rest in our aloneness with this message today. Thank you.
Amen. That was beautiful, Christina. Thank you so much. I really like this subject of just being alone with the beloved, because you're never really alone, but you need to eliminate all those distractions of separation that make us, in an ego sense, feel like we're not alone. We need to feel the aloneness with the beloved, to be nurtured like we're, there's so many beautiful poems and prayers. All you need to do is to read the Book of Solomon. No, what's it called? Not the Book of Solomon, the Wisdom, whatever, in the Old Testament. It's all about exactly what we're talking about today. So it's so beautiful. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Vicky. Let's see if there's anyone else here first in the Zoom room that would like to share anything. If so, just go ahead and unmute. Yes, Alice, I can always feel you right before you raise your hand. I'm looking at you thinking, Alice is about to raise her hand. No, Alice. Go right ahead, Alice.
I went through something quite powerful yesterday with my husband in emergency for eight hours. And he's given birth to a part of himself that has had to let go, and it's better. I mean, letting go in a good way, not letting go of the body. I feel quite relieved today. I would love to share two things. One is I've often thought of Mary, the mother of Jesus, in labor. And she knew she was giving birth to Christ. She knew. Even if she didn't 100% know, she knew. And we all know We all know we're giving birth to that now, whether it be a male or female or whatever. And it's nice to think about Mary knowing that and how we also know that. And what's a few, I know, I mean, I've had 3 children. I know about labor pains, and what a gift at the end of it. It's all about love. And so she knew she was giving birth to love as Christ. Now, if we just close our eyes for a moment, just for a moment, all of us, and know, don't believe, know that you're in labor, happily, knowing you're giving birth to. There's no holding back. Nobody can do it but you. It's there. And it's always been there. You're giving birth to yourself as the Christ that you always have been. And you're going to push this out. You're going to get rid of anything in the way. The atonement, you're going to push this out. And then really know as you look at yourself this. And yes, it is laborious, but it's okay. You're giving birth to the knowing of your Christ self. And there Mary has this tiny baby boy in her arms, and you have this love in your arms that is you, that you're embracing. We're giving birth to our Christ self. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Alice, as always. Marianne, did you have something that you were going to share?
Yes. Yes. Hello, everyone. Jimmy, I was just thinking as everyone was talking, in that aloneness, we open to love, and we are all one. It changes alone to all one, where we're just that beautiful net, Indra's net, or you can think of it as a fiber optic net, where the divine has these light rays going everywhere into the heart and soul of everyone, who also have the light rays going into the heart and soul of everyone. So all one. Thank you.
We are indeed all one. Yes, George, go right ahead.
I wanted to share this yesterday in talking about birth, because I wanted to share from a father's viewpoint. And when my youngest son's mother was pregnant, we decided from the beginning, we knew that we were giving birth to a divine child. And we both said that this is a we thing, not just her. So I loved it, because I would tell my friends, we're pregnant. And it was both of us. So I went to doctor's visits with her. I did breath class with her. And when we were in the labor room, we had a midwife that we were going to do birth at home with water. But then the doctor said, no, your wife's she's 37 and that's a little bit old. I'd rather do it in the hospital. So we were in the labor room, and the whole time that I was there with her, we had a couple that were in there taking pictures, but I laid next to her and I put my hand on her and I sent energy to her, and she would always tell me how she was feeling. And I got to experience when I held my hand sometimes on her stomach and she was having problems breathing, and I would help her breathe. I would say, pay attention, feel the energy going. And so we would connect with one another, and it was just fantastic to help me do that for her. When Dylan was born, I caught him and cut the umbilical cord. And then they were cleaning up the room as I took him back to get weighed and measured. And when I brought him back in, the room was clean. We put water out, we baptized him and introduced him to his friends, to his father, to his mother. And it was a glorious event to know and see this child, this human being, the soul coming into physical form. And even to this date, Dylan's 33 and his mom and I are divorced, but we talk periodically. We always mention that. Wasn't that a great time that we had together? And it was fabulous to be a part of it and not have to be sitting in a room waiting for it to happen, but to be right with her and to be there experiencing the birth.
Thank you, George. Yes, I've had that experience as well. It's so beautiful. I'm going to go ahead and spotlight our dear friends there at Namaste and see if any of you have anything you'd like to share with us, any inspiration. If you do, just step right up. How about you, Bethel? You always have something powerful to share.
Well, can you hear me from here?
Yeah, we can hear you okay.
I can have to go up there. You can hear?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking about the word aloneness. That sounds scary to me. But what I have to do is think of it as empty. Nothing, just nothing. So when I go into the silence, and rather than feeling alone, I feel empty. And it's only in the empty moments that I can really feel the Christ.
Yeah.
And I'll find myself, catch myself, my mind starting to wander. And I'll say, oops, that was a thought. Go back to the emptiness. So I go back to the emptiness. Next thing I know, there's another thought. Oh, that was a thought. I think I'll go back to the emptiness. And when I do that, I'm more able to connect. And it doesn't feel as scary as saying I'm alone. I'm connected, but I'm connected in like a void. I don't know how to explain it. Doesn't have words.
Yes, I hear
That's
you.
all.
Thank you, Beth. There is an emptying that must happen. We do have to empty ourselves, which is the same thing as it says in A Course in Miracles. Simply do this. Let go. Let go of everything you thought was important, everything that you thought you needed, all the concepts you've ever had, and come with wholly empty hands unto God. So we're never really alone. I love what was shared that from Marianne. If we look at that word alone, we realize it's all one, really. It's coming into that all oneness so that it's our identity. It's the limitations within us that need to be emptied. And then we do realize that we are all one. We have that direct experience. Thank you very much, Bethel. Anyone else there want to share? Yeah, Jeff, go right ahead.
Great.
Okay, this is a poem from a friend of mine on Facebook, Five Emptiness. Can I walk through life as no thing, as pure being, belonging to no group, no family, no place of birth, an empty home where no thought can germinate, no hiding place for a thought to stand still, no owner, no thing owned? Can I walk through life as a gentle breeze, leaving no trace of where I have been? Now that's empty.
Yes, it is. Thank you, brother. And thanks to all of you. What a beautiful, beautiful moment this is for all of us to share and to join and to remind each other, to continue to be inspiration to one another, to just go into it. Don't hold back. Don't try and go around it. Just enter into it fully. Whatever it is, whatever it feels like, to know that you are whole and you are holy and you are going to be fine. That's one of the beautiful things about having a community like this, so that we can just share that together and know together that something is being born, and it's a beautiful thing. It is the Christ child. And when that Christ child is born, all the pain of the labor disappears, and we hold that holy child in our arms. We feel the light moving within us. The grace is flowing, and we are like that condor, just effortlessly moving through the sky. That's what we're doing here today. And that's the beauty of our joining, coming together here almost every day to just feel this and to join in this decision. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. It's been lovely to share with all of you. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.